everybody every year, you are in the only museum for the sport of polo in the world. And that's no accident. It's happened because of the contributions of many, and it's been an effort from our staff and the board over the years to get this to be a proper facility for the event. Jordan, I'm going to need a little help. There. We have a mission at the museum to foster an appreciation of the sport, its history and traditions, by acquiring, preserving, and exhibiting and interpreting our collections, and honoring those who have made outstanding contributions to the sport. That's why we are here today. We are going to honor a number of new inductees to the museum. We have now 100 Hall of Fame inductees. We have 50 horses to remember, and we have 43 Eichelhart Award winners that have already been accepted into the hall, and you can find their names on the walls out in the galleries. One of the things I want to do is I want to take a second and have all of the people in the room who are current members of the Hall of Fame or have received the Eichelhart Award to stand up and take a round of applause from everyone for the accomplishments that put you here. Here today, according to my list, Bob Beveridge, Tommy Biddle, Julian Hipwood, Charles Smith, Tony Coppola, Carlene Garber, Jimmy Newman, Danny Shiraga, and Paul von Gontard. A round of applause for all of them. I also want to mention two people who are not with us tonight, who passed away this year, who have been phenomenal supporters of the sport and the museum, Ambassador Glenn Holden and Benny Gutierrez. They were both stalwart believers in what we were doing here, and both of them, from different perspectives, were huge contributors to the museum. The other thing I want to do is thank everybody that's here, because we are an independent organization that relies entirely on the contributions and support from the community, largely the polo community. And so thank you all for coming here and doing this, because you are the ones that make sure that the museum can operate year to year, and that's been a huge plus for us over time. We've also got the dedicated staff. Many of you know George Tupont and Brenda Lynn. In the last year, George and Brenda have taken on 3 new employees to help us in the museum. Keely Bogani, who joined us as Deputy Director, Christina Warner and Jordan Schwetz, who are both doing work for us. I thought I'd introduce them to you tonight. Closest to me is Keely, next is Jordan, and then Christina on the end. So we very much appreciate their help, and they've got a lot of things on their plate to help the museum going forward. And so I wanted everybody to know them, and if you get a chance, introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about why you think the museum is a great place to be. Thank you. Lastly, I want to thank the museum board and our founders, people who give their time and resources totally voluntarily to create this museum and Hall of Fame and help us do the job that we do. And it's been their leadership from day one, many, many years ago, all the way to today that makes this work. And so if there are any of the members of the board who are here tonight, I'd also like you to stand and get a round of thank you. Every year we also have a long list of sponsors who help us take care of this dinner. Particularly this year, we've had dinner sponsors of Mark and Melissa Ganzi, the Grand Champions Polo Club, and Aspen Valley Polo Club. They make sure that this whole meal happens, and they help subsidize a lot of the work that we do in the museum. We've also had supporting sponsors of Alexis Celine and the Robert Goldman Foundation, the U.S. Polo ASSN, Carlene Garber, and wine and spirits sponsors of Robert Lippman, Margaret Lippman Orthwine, Lippman Brothers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Old Hickory Bourbon and Whiskey, Lonely Cow New Zealand Wine, Sachetto 071 Prosecco, and Silo Tequila. And then we have social media and exhibit sponsors of Alex Pacheco, Crystal Monahan of Crystal Zasky Photography, Chucker TV, Melinda Brewer, and the Iconica Foundation. And lastly, we have volunteers of Maureen and Don Gross, Michelle Sweats, and a particular thanks to Y.A. Teitelbaum, who continues to do a lot of the PR work for us as a help to the museum. Lastly, I want to thank all of the wait staff and everybody that's prepared this meal. It's trying to rush through it so we can get to our program. And I also want to invite everyone here that in addition to coming tonight, I'd like you all to come back on your own time and visit the museum and get a better sense of what we have in the museum and in our exhibits. But we'll solve that another day. Today we've got a program that'll follow right after dinner. So enjoy your dinner, and thank you all, and welcome. Welcome to the 36th Annual Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And as I led into this earlier, and this induction ceremony is at the Museum of Polo and Hall of Fame in Lake Worth, Florida, the only museum of its kind in the world, which we are proud of. I want to start the program tonight introducing the horses to remember. And the first thing I wanted to mention to you, some people have asked us, well, how do you pick the horses to remember? Where do they come from? And so, this award acknowledges exceptional performance by horses whose accomplishments on the field are deserving of recognition by the Hall of Fame, as chosen by our selection committee and voted in by our board. The first horse we're going to introduce tonight is Beatrice. The horses to remember honoree of the early era is Beatrice, a gallant pony who made a name for herself as a warrior on and off the polo field. Beatrice was not just a polo pony, but a real war hero. During World War I, she served as an officer's charger and artillery horse in the British Army. For her distinguished service, she was awarded a gold medal, which she later wore pinned on her saddle while playing for the U.S. international team, having earned the right to do so. Before being purchased by Stephen Sanford and brought to the United States, Beatrice played in the 1921 Westchester Cup for the British team. The rangy brown mare went on to excel in 3 international series for America, the Westchester Cups of 1924 and 1930, and the 1928 Cup of the Americas, as well as the other most competitive tournaments in that golden age of polo. Adding to her laurels, she was also a winner of the coveted Prince Friarstown Cup in 1924. Her abilities were praised in numerous publications of the era, and she was cited as one of the greatest polo ponies of her time. Although owned by Sanford, she was played by Dev Milburn and Winston Guest, all 3 of whom are all Hall of Fame legends, and now she is recognized to take her rightful place alongside them in the Hall of Fame. Members of the Sanford family could not be here tonight, but Pierre Manageau, the nephew of Stephen Laddie Sanford, has sent the following statement for me to read. While I'm disappointed to not be there tonight, it is my great privilege to have this opportunity to thank the Museum of Polo nominating committee and board of directors for such a tremendous honor. As an elite fox hunter, decorated cavalry warhorse, now a Polo Hall of Famer, there can be little doubt that Beatrice was one of those exceptional horses who manages to excel at everything asked of them. After all, it's unlikely that many other polo ponies have stepped onto the field with the British Army's Gold Medal of Valor pinned to their saddle. Beatrice was an extraordinary horse both on and off the field, and on behalf of my uncle Laddie Sanford and his daughter Susie Selman, I'm proud to accept this polo's greatest accolade for her tremendous contributions to the sport. Thank you to all. So I will hold the plaque and get it back to the family, and thank you all for the applause. Okay. Our next horse is Flash. The Horses to Remember Post-Hartman Award era honoree is Flash. At 16 hands, he was a big and impressive thoroughbred gelding, and throughout the 1970s, he was a mainstay for several top players, helping them to achieve tremendous victory. During the successful run of high gold tournaments in Chicago in 1973, John Oxley purchased Flash along with the Linfoot string. Flash earned 3 Best Playing Awards, being played by Billy Linfoot, Roy Barry, and Corky Linfoot, all in the same year. Later on, he was played by Gonzalo Perez. Flash also competed in the Coronation Cups and Queen's Cups in England. Among his many highlights were being named Horse of the Year for April 1976 to April 77 and featured on the cover of Polo magazine. Here to accept for Flash on behalf of the Oxley family is Gene Fortuno.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Gene Fortuno. Been around quite a long time, and one of the lucky guys that had the opportunity to play Flash back in the 80s. I was fortunate to have Flash in my string during the 1982 high gold season. We were playing the Sunshine League and the Gold Cup in the Royal Palm team with Red Armor, Ernesto Trotz, and John T. Oxley. As everyone knows, Mr. Oxley already had figured out that it was all about ponies, and he was building a great string to really make his polo, his program as efficient and as pronounced as he could. Flash was winding down his brilliant career, but still had a big engine and plenty of spunk. Flash was already known throughout the polo world and had seen more high gold polo than most players will ever see. He was sure-footed, he was long-strided, always gave everything he had on the field. He loved to run, which would suited me just fine. There are 2 kinds of polo ponies in the world, the really good ones, then all the rest. Without a question, Flash was one of the great ones. So on behalf of the entire Oxley family, I would like to thank the Museum of Polo and Hall of Fame for recognizing Flash as one to remember. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Gene. It's always interesting when we go through preparing for this event, learning about horses we've never, in my case, that I've never seen before. And almost every time there's somebody that can say to you, well, you need to know on this particular day, this horse played 6 chukkers, dominated all the other horses on the field and whatever. And I've been finding that that's actually true in many cases, that these horses in their era were phenomenal horses. So congratulations to both of the horses, Beatrice and Flash. Our next award is the Philip Eigelhart Award. And let me read to you a little bit about the qualifications for the award. The Philip Eigelhart Award is given to recognize exceptional lifetime contributions to the sport of polo, either on a regional or a national level. And our first inductee tonight to receive that award more than qualifies on every point in that statement. Our first inductee is Jory Butler Kent. An iconic figure in U.S. polo, Jory Butler Kent was born into the sport. Her grandfather and father, F.O. Butler and Paul Butler, founded the Oak Brook Polo Club in Illinois. Jory achieved many firsts, helping to break barriers for women in polo. She was the first woman to manage a polo club, taking on that role from 1968 till 1979 at Oak Brook, then the world's largest private polo facility with 14 polo fields and stabling for 400 horses. Jory was a champion equestrian and competitive polo player. She continued making history as one of the first women to receive a USPA handicap in 1972, and is a coach and manager for the High Goal Rolex Abercrombie & Kent team. An accomplished breeder of polo ponies and a respected polo pony judge, the USPA recognized her talent and asked her to research and update the rules for judging Best Polo Pony. Jory was an original social influencer and secured Polo's first major international corporate sponsors and helped guide the success of many polo operations, including Palm Beach, Greenwich, and Windsor Polo Clubs, as well as the Museum of Polo and Hall of Fame. Here to accept her award tonight is Jory Butler Kent and her daughter, Royty Butler, and Adam Butler as well.
Talk close to the microphone.
I was told close to the microphone, that will help more to lower it. I'm so touched by this event tonight, I can't say my words. Closer? Is that better? Yeah. Sorry about that. I won't bore you by starting over again. But let me just say this is an honor beyond all honors that I've ever received. I am so deeply touched. And all I can say is the fun and the joy and the happiness that our horses and our polo gave us and all of our friends worldwide is never to be matched by any other sport. And I'm just so happy to have all of you here to celebrate with me the sport that we love the most. Bless polo, may it go on forever and ever. In the meantime, I'll stop going on and have my daughter say a few words.
Well, I'm going to try not to cry. I'm so proud of you, Mama. You're so amazing.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you also, though this is Mummy's speech, most of it. I ad-lib a little bit here. Thank you, Marty, and thank you also to the Museum of Polo's Board of Directors for this tremendous honor, and to the museum's Brenda Lynn and George DuPont, and to our wonderful Norma Cook, who wrote the application, right? Nomination, thank you for the right word. Polo for Mummy was a game that she grew up with, a family legacy that began in 1922 when Mummy's grandfather, F.O. Butler, and Mummy's father, Paul Butler, established the legendary Oak Brook Polo Club, and it became the 4th club in the United States. She's so proud to be here tonight with me, Royty Butler, her daughter, and my partner, Manuela. Royty shares my deep love and passion for polo. Royty sponsored and played on all women's teams at Oak Brook that won every tournament they entered. Thank you, Mommy. And in those same years, Royty and her men's teams won almost all the tournaments they played. And
The men were terrified.
Cecil Smith, the legendary Cecil Smith, who was 10 goals for 25 years, who was your daddy's pro,
Correct.
taught Royty how to swing, which is probably why she was so wickedly accurate. My nephew Adam, here tonight with his wife Michelle and their son Liam, also played polo in Oak Brook. He learned at the knee of my brother Michael and Michael's legendary trainer, James Rice. Do you all remember James? Also an Eaglehart Award winner, much deserved.
Right.
I'm also delighted to have Jim Drury here, Jim brought polo back to Oakbrook and the Oakbrook tradition for more than a dozen years. Jim?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim, says Mummy. Our entire family was with Jim in 2022 to celebrate Oakbrook Polo Club's 100th anniversary. In 1963, when Mummy was first tasked with managing the club until 1979, when she turned over the reins to brother Michael, Oakbrook was the world's largest private polo facility, which you've heard, 14 polo fields, 400 horses. And between 1954 and 1978, it was home to the U.S. Open for all but 3 years, having the renowned Hall of Fame player Cecil Smith at my side, says Mother, throughout those years made every season a pleasure. A decade later, in 1972, Sue Sally Hale and I became the first 2 women to be registered as members of the USPA. And Mother had a lot to do with that, I want to let you know, because she really, really, really thought Sue should get in, and Sue should get in first. I
Yes,
salute you for
she
that.
did.
Yeah, and she should, and you did. You were great. Ginger Merchant soon joined the ranks, and Mummy was thrilled recently to learn from Brenda Lynn that now almost half the members of the USPA are women.
Hallelujah.
In 1971, I met Jeffrey Kent. Mother met Jeffrey Kent. When the Kenya Polo team he captained was in Oakbrook for a series of international matches. The next year, we became equal partners in Abercrombie and Kent, which was his family's safari company in Kenya, each owning a 50% share. We established A&K International and headquartered it in Oakbrook, enabling us to work together on developing and expanding A&K to 55 offices around the globe. That first office was above one of the barns. They rolled down some carpet, put down telex wire.
Moved over this hay bales.
Oh yeah, we had to move the hay bales out of the way. And also, they were able to stay thoroughly involved in high goal polo in Oakbrook, which I think was probably the most important part of it. In 1977, our A&K team entered the U.S. Open and finished last. Jeffrey was not pleased. Mother was less pleased. The next year, however, they found a fabulous pro in Antonio Herrera, and Jeff said, "What do I need to do?" Antonio said, "You need to learn to play polo." So the next year, captained by Jeff, coached by Mother, with 2 new players, A&K won the U.S. Open in Oakbrook and the Gold Cup in Milwaukee. Pretty quick study. In 1981, Mummy was able to enlist Rolex as the first international polo sponsor. As Rolex A&K, we were victorious again that year, winning the U.S. Open at Rotama, U.S. Gold Cup in Oakbrook, and in time winning the Butler Handicap twice, the Continental Cup twice, the Cadillac Cup, the Cartier Cup, and the Rolex World Cup. One of the greatest pleasures in my life was breeding polo ponies on our family's Sun Ranch in Montana, where we raised both horses and cattle. Growing up, our ponies were used behind cattle, which was perfect training for polo ponies. They engaged their haunches, turned nimbly, stopped quickly and safely. Our cowboys had wonderful skills and easily trained our ponies to have beautiful mouth and rein. I'm ever grateful to Del Carroll, whom I'm sure many of you remember, to be the first person to whom he lent his brilliant Hall of Fame polo-playing stallion Magazin at stud. During the 1981 U.S. Open at Rotama, a number of the Rolex A&K string of ponies were stricken with equine flu before the finals. They had 17 horses left, that was it, and they didn't have time to bring in horses from out of state. The team had to double back on the best ponies and use them twice. My eyes water as I think about it, as I think about Ambicelli, my fabulous stallion who was sired by Magazin. He went out for 2 periods, and he did another half period, 2.5 periods.
Brilliant horse.
They won. As chair of the USPA in the early 1970s, Billy Ilvasacker asked me to research and update the rules for judging best playing pony. Judging was a great passion of mine, and I happily agreed. I have wonderful memories of the judges I served with across the US and in the UK, the matches and the skill and the courage of the ponies we judged. I first met His Royal Highness Prince Charles at Cowdrey Park when he was 19, and we found that we not only shared a great love of polo, but also deep care and concern for our world's fragile environment. In 1987, Prince Charles asked Jeff to captain his Windsor Park polo team for the high goal season in England. And for our next 4 summers, we spent there playing with the Windsor team, our team, the Windsor team, with the Prince of Wales. Prince Charles was at 4, Jeff was captain, Mother's role once again at coach. Do you remember the picture of Mother standing there pointing like this and almost in the nose of the Prince of Wales at the time? The team in front of her looking at her intently, and she loves the picture. She said, "Yes, they knew I was right."
I just want you all to know I asked Roddy to read all these notes that I wrote down because I can't see well enough to do it. But I'm so grateful to her to sharing all this laughter with my dear friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the entire polo community for the honor of being a part of the world's oldest sport. I remain grateful, ever grateful, for my lifelong friends and the cherished memories that polo has given me. Big love to all of you.
I think you've all figured out what a treasure it is to have Jory able to be here to accept the award. Wednesday of this week, we weren't sure. And then she said, no, I'm going to be there. So our next candidate for the Philip Eigelhart Award is Susan Stovall. Susan Stovall was a force of nature, leaving an indelible mark on the world of polo. She did it all, from riding early morning sets to competing on the field, organizing tournaments to hosting royalty and celebrities at charity polo events. A respected and much beloved manager of El Dorado for 26 years, Stovall also continued to play and to help run her family's polo operation, the White Swan Polo Club in Washington. Under her watch, El Dorado grew to become the largest polo club on the West Coast, with dozens of teams regularly competing, thanks to her enthusiasm, no-nonsense approach, organizing skills, and her genuine love of people that made all feel welcome. Here to accept the award tonight is Susan's sister, Gracia Brown, and family friend, Fergus Gould.
Well, Gracia promised to come up and stand here with me as long as she didn't have to say anything, so here we are. First of all, I'd like to thank the Polo Museum and Hall of Fame. Tonight, I've been tasked with an incredible honor and huge responsibility in summing up Susan's life's work. But firstly, I have to give a big thank you to Colleen Garber, who is the one who nominated Susan for the Eigelhart Award. And everything has come full circle because turns out Susan was the one that nominated Colleen for the Eigelhart Award. So I think that's fantastic. Susan was a tremendous person, and she cared so greatly about polo and made such a fantastic contribution. She oversaw El Dorado Polo Club for 26 years in the height of its glory. She hosted royalty, as you've heard, and her list of accomplishments is too long for me to do justice to, so I'm going to have to go with a few of her favorites, which the chief among them was establishing the umpire program at El Dorado Polo Club with the PTF, with Carleen and with Danny Shiraga, and that was something that was very, very dear to her. And her vision and her pragmatism in establishing that still informs the way that the Umpires LLC runs to this day. And I have Susan to thank for, I think, where I am in my position as executive director. She called me in 2011 and said, we need an umpire in Saint-Tropez, and you were part of the program in El Dorado, so you'd be great. And this was Susan's reality distortion field at its best, because I wasn't qualified for that job. But she said that I could do it, so no matter how difficult it was and how at times overwhelming it became, I knew that I could do it because Susan believed that I could do it. And just like so many people walked into her office in California hoping to negotiate for an afternoon practice the following day, only to find themselves walking out with a Governor's Cup team, a slight shake of the head and Susan's voice ringing out behind them saying, "Don't worry, it's going to be great." Speaking of the Governor's Cup, the Pacific Coast Governor's Cup, anybody who's been involved with polo in California or has heard about it will know what an important tournament it is. And Susan won that tournament twice. The second time that she won it, there was 26 teams. And the most teams that were ever involved in that tournament under Susan's watch was 40. Something that she was tremendously proud of. She rode sets every morning, she played every weekend, and one Sunday at El Dorado, there were 23 games played on a Sunday, and Susan played in one of them as well, while managing everything. Once she had finished with her 26-year career at El Dorado, she took on the challenge of going to France and managing the Saint-Tropez Polo Club in the south of France, armed with 2 words in French, rosé and glaçon. Pink wine and ice, probably the 2 most important words that she needed. She was somebody that was constant for all of us. She cared so deeply, and no matter where life took her, anytime she came back to the desert, she checked in on everybody. She called me, she checked on my family. If we were too busy to get together, she'd say, "Don't worry, I'm coming over. I'll be there in 14 minutes. And she would kick down the front door and come in, and we would have the most fantastic time. So it is with great pleasure and a tinge of sadness that I am up here to accept the Eaglehart Award on behalf of Susan, somebody who was so tremendous and had such an effect on so many of us and continues to have an effect on us. I would just like to say, congratulations, Susan, a friend of mine. Thank you.
Our last 2 awards tonight are the inductees for the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame criteria are that any person shall be eligible for election to the Hall of Fame who's contributed to the game in an extraordinary and honorable manner, whether by dedication to the sport or by ability and record as a player. The first person we're honoring tonight is Jimmy Bachman. For those of you that knew Jimmy, Jimmy was driven to play polo. His sheer determination and grit, renowned horsemanship, mastery of the game, and gift for mentoring promising young players all had a profound influence on the sport. Although he will be forever remembered as the king of low-goal polo, he succeeded at every level. His win of the 1983 Monty Waterbury Cup capped a competitive high-goal career, while his medium goal play earned him the Copper Cup twice, the Bronze Trophy twice, the Heritage Cup, and the Chairman's Cup. Returning to play polo after serving with honor in Vietnam, Jimmy reached 7 goals in 1986 and played at that handicap until his untimely death on the field in 1991. And for all of you that don't know, the 3-quarter rule was christened to stop Jimmy from winning all the 8-goal tournaments. Accepting for the family tonight is Jimmy Bachman's daughter, Candace Gaines, and Tony Coppola to help her accept the award.
Good evening, everyone. So Tony's gonna give a little history, but I just want to give some thank yous. We are very happy to accept this award on behalf of my father, Jimmy Bachman. I think he would be pleased to be recognized and remembered in this way and have his space placed on the wall. We would like to thank all of those who have, in the past years, who got him in. Pardon me. We'd like to thank those who helped make this happen. Dad was one of a kind, and there will never be another like him. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Tony Polo.
Well, Tammy, you're right. He was one of a kind. Just to give you a little history about Jimmy and I, we first met in the mid-'60s in Brandywine, and then I ran into him in Southeast Asia. We were both down in the Mekong Delta, and it was really weird. I was sitting on the side of the road waiting for a convoy to pick us up, and a mechanized unit came by and a tank stopped, and I looked up and I said, "Jimmy Bachman." He said, "Tony Coppola." So, you know, they say a polo handicap is a passport to the world. Well, strange thing about it is Jimmy didn't have a handicap at that time, neither did I. But when he did get a handicap, his first handicap at the USPA was 3 goals. He was never 0, never 1, never 2. His first handicap was 3 goals. So he was hiding out. He was hiding out in Charlottesville, playing a lot of arena polo with Danny Snifflet and those guys. Anyway, in 1969, we both came to Florida for the first winter. He came down here with Juan Rodriguez and Will Farish, and I came down with the Skater. And we played a lot of polo together. And as Marty pointed out, he was the king of logo polo. That's why the Bachman rule, the 3/4 rule, was started. I played a lot of polo with Jimmy, a lot of polo against him. But one thing is, when you play with Jimmy, he made you play better. The guy worked so hard on the field, he gave 120%. And you'd kind of think sometimes him lagging back a little bit, but you'd give that extra little bit to play and play up to his standards. So on behalf of the Bachman family, and I'd just like to thank everybody for this award for a great guy that we really missed and left us too early.
Congratulations to the Bachman family, and congratulations to Jimmy. We have one more award to give out tonight, and I've heard it's going to be hard to find this guy in the crowd. We're going to see if we can find him somewhere. Joe Henderson. I need to introduce him. Joe is a dynamic all-around player who reached 8 goals outdoors and 10 goals in the arena. He hoisted the cup of major high-goal tournaments on grass, including the C.V. Whitney, 2 America's Cups, and 4 North American Cups. He dominated the 1987 Pacific Coast Open, where he and his string swept the title, MVP, and Best Playing Pony. In 1993, Henderson reached the U.S. Open final and was selected as the MVP. Even better known as an arena powerhouse and earning the moniker Smokin' Joe. Some of the people in the crowd have heard of him before. Henderson won many titles en route to a 10-goal handicap. Named Arena Player of the Year in 1988 and 1992, he was recognized as Arena Player of the Centennial Era in 1990. Here with us to accept tonight is Smokin' Joe Henderson.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's get that a little higher. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here. There's a few thank yous that I need to go through. The Hall of Fame Board of Directors, thank you for everything you've done. And for all the people, I think you heard them over there, they came to support me. My sister and Bradley came from South Africa, my other sister from Aiken, my cousins from San Diego, the Rooneys and the Stanburys from Calgary, Scott Cunningham and Laurie from Colorado. So I was thrilled to have a little bit of support here. I have so I have to say a big thank you to my parents, because after I dashed my father's hopes of me becoming a lawyer, he finally gave me the best advice he ever did, and that was, he said, "Joe, go to America." And so that's what I did. And my story starts just down the road there at the corner of Lakeworth Road and Polo Road, where I had the taxi drop me off at the corner on Lakeworth Road because I didn't want to pay him to take me all the way to the office because I didn't have the money. And I didn't have a job. I just showed up at the Polo office at Gulfstream and thought I was going to have to sleep in the barn that night. And I met a friend and she said, "No, you can come and sleep on my floor." And I was like, "Oh, great, thanks for that." Anyway, 2 days later, I got a job clipping horses, and they asked me if I'd ever clipped a horse, and of course I said yes. Being from South Africa, I'd never clipped a horse in my life. The first few were a little shaky, but we figured it out. And so I was just happy to be in America. I had a job, I had a place to live, and then I ended up going to help out Tony Coppola. I don't even know if he even remembers that I was there for 6 weeks, and while I was there, a sponsor from Detroit found out that I was 4 goals in South Africa, and so he promptly dropped me to 3 and asked me if I wanted to go to Detroit, and I was like, well, sure. And I don't know if he was a great judge of talent or if he was just got the cheapest polo pro on the planet, but I didn't care. I was going to Detroit, and my dream of being a polo professional in America had come true, and so I was thrilled to do that. So I'm still happy for the advice my dad gave me to tell me to come to America. So I did that for a few years, and as luck would have it, I ended up in LA. And Hollywood is Hollywood. It is crazy out there, and we were lucky to survive. And I met Mr. Tom Goodspeed out there. He's sitting right there, and he should have been 10 goals too. Anyway, he offered me a job playing in the Pro League, and of course I was going to accept that without question. And all of a sudden I was making a decent salary, and there were some beautiful people in LA, and Stallone. I was working for Sly Stallone, and life was pretty good. So anyway, I finally saved up enough money, and I called the guy in Detroit, Denny Rogers was his name, and to ask him if I could buy the one horse that he had that I really liked. And so he said, "Don't you do that arena league out in LA?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He says, "Well, how much money do you make?" I go, "Well, we make $1,000 a game." So he said, "All right, send me your next 63 checks, and I'll send the truck and trailer and 7 horses for you." And I was like, well, these Americans are crazy, man. Who would do that? Anyway, the horses showed up, and so then my career in Santa Barbara and the desert and Calgary started to take off, and I got to play with some not very many sponsors, but I had 3 sponsors in particular that I've spent almost 40 years with, and one was Mr. Beal, and I don't know why everybody just calls him Mr. Beal, and I don't know why, but nobody ever calls him, especially me. And then when little Freddie Mannix was 10 years old, his dad hired me to come and play with him. And so that was kind of a long-term job, and until Freddie got better than me, and then so he moved on, and so then I got the next kid, Julian, and he got better than me, and so then I ended up with old Fred, and so we kind of finished the last couple of years of his career. So between Mr. Beal and Mr. Mannix, that was a pretty decent start to my career, and then finally, as we started on the downhill side, I think I'd got to know the Rooney family, and John, I think, finally decided to hire me as opposed to play against me. I hope that's what I say anyway. So I've spent the last 18 years, playing with the Rooney family, and it's been amazing. I've watched the three beautiful girls, and they're all sitting there. You should go and say hello to them. And as we got older, the polo, the level got lower, and finally we got Ellie, his eldest daughter, to come and play with us. And then last year we got Veronica, his second eldest daughter, to come and play with us. And now Ellie's pregnant, so there's probably room for Paula, the youngest daughter, to come and play with us. So I'm kind of hoping that I'll get to play with the whole family at some point. If I play my cards right, they'll all be pregnant at different summers. That way they won't kick me off the team. So I'm kind of hoping that works out. Finally, a few years ago, Fergus Gould came to me, and he's got a very subtle way of telling me that I was too old to play professional polo. I did resist for a while, and he finally convinced me that after yelling at umpires for 40 years, it might be time to switch sides and come and help them out. And as I say, in this country has been fabulous and has provided me with opportunities, and even now, at the end of my career, I have a job still with the USPA, involved with polo, and I have a whole new group of friends through the umpires, and I'm very happy, that this country has provided me, for the last 45 years, an opportunity to live here, work here, and most importantly, to become a citizen of this amazing country. Thank you.
So I have a few closing remarks to make. Number one, congratulations, Joe, well deserved. And certainly, if those of you who haven't met Joe, especially on a polo field as an umpire, he will declare the fouls on the field quite confidently, as you might be surprised to know. I want to close by thanking a few people, especially the people that make this all happen. So everyone here knows George and Brenda are the people that run the museum. And we have some new helpers working alongside them, but they still put in a yeoman's effort every day to make sure the museum runs, that this event happens, that all of the joy that happens in this room comes through the work that they do. So thank you, George and Brenda. In the beginning, I went through a list of other sponsors who donate. Mark and Melissa, who sponsored the dinner, Alexis Celine and the Robert Goldman Foundation, the U.S. Polo ASSN, Carlene and Beal Garber, the wine and spirit sponsors, Robert Lippman, Margaret Lippman, North Wine, Lippman Brothers, Tito's Vodka, Old Hickory Bourbon and Whiskey, Sachetto 71 Prosecco, Lonely Cow New Zealand Wine, and Cielo Tequila. And then our social media sponsors, Alex Pacheco, Crystal Monahan at Crystal Zasky Photography, the Iconica Foundation, Melinda Brewer, and Y.A. Teitelbaum. I also want to give special thanks to Ken Rose Catering and Atlas Party Rentals for their part in creating this fabulous dinner tonight and being on time and getting everything so that we all had such a good time together. And last but not least, I'll extend my invitation again. For everybody that's in this room, I challenge you to come back to the museum one more time this winter and just spend some time walking around the galleries and see the great work that the staff here is doing to preserve the history and traditions of the sport. Good night, all, and thank you.